Yeah, it's perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Nazia Nawrin. Today, I'm going to present our recent article, which is based on my master's thesis, Geospatial Analysis of Arsenic and Fluoride in Quaternary Aquifers of Southern Ontario. And my two wonderful co-authors are Dr. Arnaun from the University of Guelph and Dr. Priv from the Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, who also worked with the Ontario Geological Survey previously. So these are the outlines from our study I'm going to present today. So I want to start with a little background. In our study area, Southern Ontario, groundwater is extracted from both bedrock and quaternary aquifers. And many people in this region rely on their private water wells for domestic supply and farming that are constructed on relatively small but significant overburdened quaternary aquifers. The groundwater quality of these shallow aquifers can be affected either by the natural constituents released from rock or sediments when it flows through in the subsurface, or by surface contaminants resulting from different anthropogenic sources. Whatever the source is, when any elements present in groundwater exceed drinking water standards, it becomes unsafe for public use. So in our study, we focused on two groundwater quality constituents, arsenic and fluoride. And as the main data source, we used the Ontario Geological Survey's ambient groundwater geochemistry dataset for Southern Ontario. Our purpose of this study was to investigate whether the geology of Southern Ontario is related to the distribution of groundwater, arsenic, and fluoride. As geological components, we choose physiographic setting of Southern Ontario as the main variable. And to assess the influence of other geological factors, we included Paleozoic bedrock formation and superficial geological formation map and superficial geological formation map, superficial geology map of Southern Ontario in our data analysis. So the ambient groundwater geochemistry, that is AGG dataset that we utilized, was an outcome of a sampling program by OGS from 2007 to 2014 across Southern Ontario with a 10 by 10 kilometer grid resolution for characterizing the baseline groundwater geochemistry. This extensive AGG dataset contains analytical data, well depth, well location, type of well construction, and many more other parameters for approximately 2,300 groundwater samples collected from domestic farm and monitoring wells that are tapping into both overburden and bedrock aquifers. Our study focused on this AGG dataset for 515 overburden wells. Among those, 224 bored or dug wells were 224 bore or dug wells are indicated in this map by green dots, and 291 were drilled wells, which are presented by red dots here. For data analysis, we separated the wells according to their types of well construction, that is bored or dug versus drill wells, as the well construction is usually considered as a strong influencing factor on groundwater quality. So another main data we used in this study was the physiography of Southern Ontario, which was shaped by the last Quaternary glaciation and left behind a number of landforms that contain very complex and heterogeneous unconsolidated overburden sediment, such as till, sand, gravel, silt, and clay. 17 physiographic settings that are shown in this map were defined based on the superficial geology and topographic characteristics of the area. 8 out of these 17 physiography, those are listed here, that is till moraine spillways, K moraine, unrumlinized till plain, and rumblins, vival till plain, sand plain, and clay plain, that those were chosen for having sufficient number of wells to assess their relationship to groundwater, arsenic, and fluoride. So in our study, we had two main parts of analysis, geospatial and statistical. So geospatial analysis was done with arsenic and fluoride concentrations to examine the distribution of impacted wells relative to 8 different physiographic settings and their level of contamination at a regional scale. Data from bedrock map, superficial geology map, and land use map were also integrated. Moreover, cluster and outlier analysis was performed to identify clusters of high concentrations, high arsenic and fluoride concentration in our study area. Then spatial statistical analysis, ordinary least square regression, that is OLS, and geographically weighted regression, GWR, which is actually an outgrowth of OLS, were completed to quantitatively assess the relationship of arsenic and fluoride with mainly physiography, and then by other factors, for example, texture of superficial deposit, texture of till, bedrock formation, geochemical factors, for example, ORP, and other chemical constituents such as fluoride relative to arsenic and cadmium, and relative to arsenic and cadmium relative to fluoride, and well depth. So the overall goal of this statistical analysis was to examine if these explanatory or independent variables are influencing factor that can help predict the water well susceptibility to arsenic and fluoride contamination. So among these explanatory variables, there are some categorical variables: physiographic setting, texture of superficial deposit, texture of till, and bedrock formation. And this is how they were categorized for the analysis shown on the right side. So here the graphs of descriptive statistics of concentration, that is maximum, minimum, mean, standard deviation, and geospatial maps of arsenic and fluoride in bored or dug and drilled wells relative to a defined physiographic setting are shown in this slide and will be shown in the next 3 slides. So here the maximum arsenic concentration are indicated by the yellow bars in the graph, and the elevated arsenic above the maximum allowable concentration, that is MAC limit, which is 10 microgram per liter for arsenic, are presented by the big circles in the map. The color inside the circle represent different physiographic setting. Additionally, here the Paleozoic bedrock formation, where the elevated arsenic were found in drilled wells, are indicated in the map. So we found from the literature that most of this bedrock formation contain disseminated pyrite, which is a potential geogenic source of arsenic. So here in this map, the elevated arsenic in bored or dug wells are presented again by the big circles. You may notice that there are only 5 bore or dug wells that have high arsenic, and 3 of them are from Weevil till plain, the green one. Also in the graph, we see the maximum and maximum and mean arsenic concentration of Weevil till plain are also higher compared to the other physiography. For fluoride, the maximum concentrations in drilled wells are presented again by the yellow bars in the graph, and the elevated fluoride above MAC limit, which is 1.5 milligram per liter for fluoride, presented by the big circles in the map. The Paleozoic bedrock formations, where the elevated fluoride was found in drilled wells, are also integrated into this map. From the literature, we found that argillaceous limestone and dolostone and some other shale-dominated bedrock units, which are mostly associated with the younger Devonian formation in southern Ontario, may contain fluoride-bearing minerals. So in this slide, here in this map, only 3 elevated fluoride above the MAC limit in bored or dug wells are presented by the big circles. And 2 out of these 3 wells are from Weevil till plain, the green ones. In the graph, you may notice that the highest fluoride concentration in bore or dug wells is from Weevil till plain, the orange bar, and the mean fluoride concentration of Weevil till plain and undrumlinized till plain, the dark blue bars, are also higher compared to the other physiography. Now, the results of statistical analysis are presented here and in the next 2 slides, where the arsenic and fluoride concentration were the dependent variable, and the factor listed in the left column of this table were the explanatory or independent variables. Before doing the stat analysis, the non-detects of arsenic and fluoride were removed from the data set. So the OLS, GWR, and spatial autocorrelation analysis were done in 3 steps, where we found the basic statistical results, for example, F statistics and T statistics value from OLS global model. Joint F statistics value greater than 2.5 with p-value less than 0.05 from OLS models were considered as overall statistically significant models. Then performing GWR analysis added a level of modeling sophistication by allowing local relationship between dependent variable and explanatory variables. Factors that were found to be overall statistically significant were run for further GWR analysis, where we got the measure of adjusted R-square. Then spatial autocorrelation analysis helped us to find out the properly specified GWR models with random spatial pattern of GWR residuals, which are indicated by R in this table. So the red boxes in this table indicate the model results of arsenic that were considered for the final interpretation. So for fluoride, the stat analysis were done in the same way. In this table, you may notice there are some GW residual pattern with C, that is clustered residual pattern, for some statistically significant OLS models, but they were not considered for final interpretation, as the clustered pattern of GW residuals indicate that a key explanatory variable is still missing to explain the spatial distribution of dependent variables in a model. So here again, the red boxes indicate the model results of fluoride that were considered for the final interpretation. Then here, an additional analytical output was obtained from the OLS model reports, where the T statistics value greater than 2 with p-value less than 0.05 were used to assess whether a single explanatory variable helped to make the overall model statistically significant or not. The outputs are summarized in this table. For example, Weevil till plain turn out to be a single statistically significant variable for most of the OLS model for arsenic in bored or dug wells. Another example is the positive correlation of both arsenic and fluoride to each other in bored or dug wells. One more interesting finding we got from this analysis was that T statistics value with negative sign suggested a negative correlation between dependent and explanatory variables. For example, arsenic and ORP in both type of wells, sanditil deposits for both arsenic and fluoride in drilled wells here, and some sand-dominated physiography such as drumlinized till plains and drumlins and sand plain for fluoride and arsenic in both type of wells. Now it's time to highlight our key findings from the results of both geospatial and statistical analysis. Firstly, it was interesting to see that the number of impacted drilled wells was greater than the number of impacted bore or dug wells for both arsenic and fluoride. Although drilled wells are typically considered to be safe in terms of well protection relative to bored or dug wells, in our study area, this may have more to do with the likely natural source of arsenic and fluoride that release from the cluster of underlying bedrock. So though it was not well established from the stat analysis, but from geospatial mapping, spatial cluster analysis, and literature, we found there is a possible connection between elevated arsenic and fluoride in drilled wells and the underlying bedrock formation, mostly regardless of physiography. In contrast, 4 out of 8 physiographic settings turn out to be influencing factors related to arsenic and fluoride contamination. For instance, both geospatial and statistical analysis suggested that bored or dug wells in Beeville till plain seem to be more susceptible to arsenic contamination. Also, bore or dug wells in undrumlinized till plain and Beeville till plain appear to be relatively susceptible to fluoride contamination. Conversely, both bored or dug wells and drilled wells in drumlinized till plain and drumlins and drilled wells in sand plains came out comparatively safe in terms of groundwater, fluoride, and arsenic, as they showed negative correlation with these constituents. Then we found that the texture of glacial till influence arsenic and fluoride concentration in drill wells. For example, presence of silt or clay in glacial till can facilitate releasing arsenic and fluoride in groundwater, specifically for arsenic under reducing condition. On the other hand, sandy till, likely with positive ORP, helps to attenuate arsenic and fluoride in groundwater. Another finding was a likely association of high arsenic and fluoride in 2 bored or dug wells of Beeville till plain and application of phosphate fertilizer. Since arsenic and fluoride together are known components of phosphate fertilizer. However, this contaminant was very limited to Beeville till plains, where the shallow layer of glaciolacustering clay over the reworked till plain probably favored the retention of arsenic and fluoride contaminants that release from the agricultural lands. So here is the DOI of our article, if you are interested to read more. As this article is not openly accessible yet, so feel free to email me. My email is available with the article abstract. And thanks everyone for listening.